All right, this is different. Now, some of you may be done with school. Some of you may be done with school for good. Congratulations, you made it. Bravo, 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 bravo. Meanwhile, the NFL just had OTAs heading into training camp. But as we head into this wild season that is storming upon us very soon, there are some things that we need to discuss. So I am asking all 32 NFL teams, yes, all 32 this time, to please take out your workbooks, grab your pencils, make sure you pay attention. You might learn something. You know why? Because it's time for the Gradebooks.
Oh, back to school. Back to school.
Yes, the Gradebooks have returned. So let's just get right to it. Starting with the Buffalo Bills. The Bills went 11-6. First in the division. Granted, it was hard fought and there were times they were actively trying to lose it. Let's go over some good things real quick. Good thing is that the offense is still potent as ever. For some reason, as good as all these numbers look, 11-6, little misleading, don't you think? But let's go over these numbers. They were 4th in yards per game, 8th in passing, 7th in rushing, which not all Josh Allen for once. Matter of fact, James Cook had a really stellar year. Over 1,100 yards on the ground. I think it's safe to say that the running game has improved and that they have a running game. Now, Josh Allen also had 500 yards on the ground because he's just a freaking monster. But they were 5th in yards per drive, 35 yards per drive. I feel like that's just imposing your will on defenses. 6th in points per game, almost 27 points per game. They were 1st on 3rd down conversions, converting nearly half of their 3rd downs, and they were 6th in the red zone, converting 63%. Now, we all know how potent the offense is. Then you combine that with a fringe top 10 defense. Check this out. Defense, 9th in yards per game, 7th in passing, 15th in rushing, which is mid, but is something you can live with. 10th in yards per drive, just under 29 yards per drive. The defense was really good at creating turnovers. They had 30 turnovers, which was 3rd, and they were 1st in turnover percentage, which is basically the amount of offensive drives that ends in a turnover. They were 4th in points per game. So the offense was scoring 27, and the defense was only giving up 18. I say that's pretty damn good. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, how in the world is a team this stacked, this built, with a very powerful offense and a really good defense, how is it that they are 11-6?
What happened?
Let's take a look at the schedule, shall we? And figure out how 11-6 actually happened. Week 1 versus the Jets, loss in overtime. This is also the same game that Aaron Rodgers went down in 4 snaps. Then you follow that up with 3 dominant wins in a row. Stomping out the Raiders, stomping out the Commanders, and smacking the Dolphins. But then they go to London and lose to the Jaguars. No fault to Josh Allen. That was when the defense had a lot of injuries, which is a point to bring up here. The defense was a fringe top 10 defense, yet there were a lot of broken bones.
Oh, I'm hurt. Oh, my neck, my back.
Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Trey White. But then you would think they would kind of do what they did after week 1, go back to being dominant, right? Not exactly. After that loss in London, they decided to stub their toe in New York. They won that game, but barely. If you want to torture your eyes, go watch the highlights to that game. Follow that up with a loss in New England. Yeah, the New England team with the Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi quarterback controversy. Right. Yeah, but then they go to Cincinnati, take an L there. Then they go home for Denver, which should have been a kind of a walk in the park win, if you ask me. But they lost that game. And that was the game that kind of ultimately did Ken Dorsey, which is another point I must bring up. Ken Dorsey, his play calling was kind of sort of like, again, no structure. Roll the dice, see what works. Let's just try that one. He was like playing Madden coach suggestions. That's what he was doing. After that, he gets the boot, kind of deservingly so. So Joe Brady steps in. They bounce back against the Jets and had a really strong performance against the Eagles. Took it all the way to overtime. And if it wasn't for a slight miscue between Gabe Davis and Josh Allen. The Bills would have won that game, but they lost in overtime, but that was a really strong showing. Finally, they get a break. After the bye week, they just went on a tear here. They went on a 5-game winning streak to close out the season, including a division clinching game against Miami in week 18 and a week 14 win against Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, and also a good smacking of the Cowboys in between there. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of everyone, thank you.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah, fuck you!
But then you get to the playoffs. I'm not going to count the wild card round because even though they are my Steelers, there was no competition there. Okay, let's just be real here. There was just like really Steelers fans, y'all thought we had a chance there? Come on, be honest. But then round 2. This time the Chiefs have to go visit the Bills. They lose again to the Chiefs. And it wasn't really a good showing either. They got pretty much by the Kansas City defense. This was supposed to be the year too, because the Chiefs looked vulnerable. It wasn't in Arrowhead. You technically are the better team this year, but they fumbled the bag. Because the Bills are the Bills. Because of this loss, yet again, that could be the reason why Diggs decided to leave, along with Gabe Davis, who went to Houston and Jacksonville respectively. They did try to replenish the wide receiver room a little bit with Curtis Samuel and MVS from the Chiefs and Keon Coleman in the draft, which overall, I like the Bills draft here. They got younger on the defense, which they definitely need to do because they lost a lot of players. Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Trey White. They did re-sign Gregory Rousseau. They lost a lot of snaps on defense, but they did go younger in the draft. Keon Coleman, I think he will be a better fit for the Gabriel Davis role, if you ask me. Not the Diggs role per se, but overall, I'm giving the Bills a B. B for Buffalo Bills.
Move this man! Ha ha, very funny, motherfucker!
Okay, all right, that was bad. But seriously though, like this season, the numbers do not speak 11-6. But one thing that I will point out, and this is the glaring thing here, the offensive turnovers. The Bills had 28 turnovers, which is 23rd in the league. And you want to know something very interesting? You want to know who was number 2 in interceptions this year? Josh Allen. Their turnover percentage was 5th, just under 15%. They had 28 turnovers, which was almost as many turnovers as the defense had. So therefore, you are almost giving up the ball as soon as the defense gets it for you. That's a problem. Hopefully, with a full off season under Joe Brady, the defense retools, they got younger, and maybe a more consistent offense, no more throwing darts at a wall. And actual scheme. They have a running game now in James Cook. One more time, I guess you could say this is kind of like the second phase for Josh Allen because he did lose Stephon Diggs, which was his number 1, and his number 2 in Gabe Davis is gone too. Buffalo Bills. Class is dismissed. Now, moving on to the Miami Dolphins.